Good evening. The Rancho Public Schools Board of Education meeting for Monday, August 28th is now called to order. Will all please arise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Jeffrey Morgan will start us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
JC, can you take a roll call for us?
President Galbraith,
Present.
Vice President Morgan,
Present.
Secretary Scott,
Present.
Board Member Tripp,
Present.
Board Member Tyler.
Present.
We are all here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum tonight. We'd like to welcome everyone out to our board meeting tonight. It's always wonderful when we have a full board room. And we'd like to apologize very much so for being late tonight. We apologize for that. But tonight we will get started with some introductory comments by our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. We are glad that you are with us this evening, and we're seeing the most rare of events in New Mexico. It's raining out there, and there's a beautiful rainbow we can see right through that window. All right. We have some recognitions this evening. The first is to recognize the accomplishment of some of our students in bowling. There are two students here from Rio Rancho High School and one from Cleveland High School. Todd Resch, who is our Executive Director of Athletics, will be sharing with you some specific information about these students and their accomplishments. Mr. Resch will also present information regarding a Rio Rancho High School student who was the junior golf winner of the Nota Begay Regional Golf Tournament. And that's very exciting, and he will tell you what's in store for this young man in the near future. So we are delighted that you are here with us this evening. Okay, and for golf, it's Peyton Black, and for bowling, Kylie Belknap and Mia Medina and Shane Muller. And we do congratulate you on this recognition. Okay, we're also going to have this evening something that's really important for not only the board but the community to be aware of. We have some new regulations with the New Mexico Activities Association, who of course oversees all athletics and many other activities, including some fine arts and some others like speech and debate. And they're trying to respond to a really serious problem that's been going on in our communities in our state for a while. We have seen an increase in some very inappropriate behavior by both athletes and fans at athletic events and other NMAA-sponsored activities during the last several years. And they've tried several different things to try to get that under control. But when you get to a situation where people are concerned for their safety at events, they felt like they needed to take an even stronger stand. And so the NMAA, which of course has a board of directors, is representatives from across the state, did meet and decided they were going to take a pretty firm stand this year and in the years ahead. And so it's really, there are a lot of things that have been going on, but one of the biggest things you can see in athletics is getting almost impossible to get officials because they do not want to have to take the abuse that sometimes they're subjected to. So Todd Resch, again, our Director of Athletics, will be presenting a video from the NMAA, and we will also provide some additional information on the topic. All of the parent organizations also will have an opportunity to view this video. And we want everyone in our district and our community to be aware about these new regulations, because if we fail to adhere to those, then some of our young people could lose their entire season because of the really bad behavior of just a few. And so we're all going to need to step up and try to ensure that that does not happen. I think as a general rule, Rio Rancho has been noted for sportsmanlike behavior, and we have tried very much to push decorum at our events, but we've had some incidents as well, and so we really think that this may be a challenge, but it's a really important thing for us to do. Okay, on this new code of conduct, as I said, other approaches have been tried. And you'll probably be hearing a lot about the 2 strikes rule. But this video will explain the particulars of that. And we all want to be sure our kids do have an opportunity to compete this year. We have Ron Epps, community chair for the Rio Rancho Public School Hall of Honor. And he is with us this evening to talk about the nomination process. And as you've come in from the outside, you may see on the wall out there our current Hall of Honor members. And this is a wall for very distinguished individuals who have given a lot to our school district. And he's going to share with us how you can nominate candidates for this process and how those candidates, in fact, are selected. The committee is primarily made up of community people. We do have some district staff that serve on it as well. We encourage you, if you know of someone, and we're really looking for people with extraordinary service, long service or extraordinary service to our district. And if you look at the stories of the people that are out there on the wall, they all have pretty interesting stories to tell. And so we do hope we'll get a really good slate of candidates to select from this year. We have a land exchange agreement that we are looking at working on with the city. And this has been a lengthy process. There still appears to be some questions that need to be addressed. And we were in an executive session to discuss that a little bit earlier this evening. Okay. The board will be asked to consider a preventative maintenance plan for this year. It's so important. We have a lot of facilities down this district. And it's really important we take care of what we have. And so looking at how we can do that with the very limited resources sometimes that we have, but there's a plan that will be presented from the facilities department. Patrick Martinez, who is our executive director of facilities, will present the plan for the board to review. It is just it is so important because in so many things that we try to do, we either pay now or we pay a whole lot more later. And so having a really good plan with schedule plan on things that need to be done helps us to plan for those things that need to be accomplished. We are continuing to work legislatively. The NIMSL and MSSA legislative platform, one of the primary things that we're expecting to be in that is additional funding for the upkeep of school facilities. And we have just a lot of needs and really very limited resources to maintain some of our facilities. And again, the board is going to be asked to approve the plan for this year. And then very quickly, we have some first readings for policy changes. And when it's a first reading, no action can be taken at this meeting. This is an opportunity for the board to hear the recommended changes and then to have 2 weeks to review those and see if they have questions or would want to suggest some alternative changes to the policy. And so there are 4 that we're looking at tonight. One is the district credit card usage. The second is fiscal accounting and reporting. The third is finance system and expenditure reports. And the last are budget transfers. So again, first reading, and there'll be no action can be taken by the board on a first reading. And then the last is the district administration and the Rio Rancho Schools Employee Union have signed a memorandum of understanding for seniority pay, which we shared with the board. It recognizes the importance of retaining qualified, experienced employees in our district. Information will be going out to employees tomorrow. Just very, very briefly, I don't want to go into a lot of detail because it would take a long time. But during the pandemic and over the last several years since the Great Recession, salary schedules just got compacted tighter and tighter. And so that meant those steps were gone, and what you ended up with was a situation in which people had many years of service and folks who were brand new were basically at the same salary level. And so looked at how there might be some way to recognize those years of service to the district. And so the amount would be $250 per contract year for a full year of service since the employee's most recent hire. So if you've been hired and then you left for several years and you came back, it would start when you came back and would move from that point forward. I want to stress that a lot of time and effort's gone into this. It is a pilot program, always contingent upon the absence of any major reductions in state funding. We're very pleased to work with the union on what we think is an important way to express our appreciation for those people who have several years of service in our district. And do you have any questions?
Any questions? Jessica, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Cleveland.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate those. All right, we'll now go to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make a motion to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Gary Tripp, I second.
Okay. We have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Gary Tripp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. We'll now go to the public comment portion of our meeting for tonight. I'm first going to go through, so we have both tonight. We have a public comment form that comes in through our online page. And then we also have some public comment that will be here in the boardroom tonight. And so I'm going to go through our form pages first, and then we will we'll announce for those who are in the boardroom tonight to come up in just a minute. So first, we received 10 public comments on our online form, and I'm going to go through those. Our first was from Ashley Hughes. She would like more information on the absence and tardy policy in regards to IEP and 504 plans and doctor's notes. Rory Taylor is against the new tardy policy at Cleveland High School and is asking the district to look into this policy again. Wynn Coleman asked that per policy 211, that board materials would be up and available on board book and would like to see the resolution on behavioral health. Faith Young would like dual credit courses to be weighted like our AP courses. Also feels that our dress code is targeted toward our female students. Richard Whitty is concerned that families are not allowed to use the restroom at Eagle Ridge while attending IEP meetings. Kimberly Fisher is against the tardy policy at our comprehensive high schools. Melissa Lyman is saying thank you for addressing the attendance issues at our schools and teaching our kids accountability. Megan Smith saying that students need more time to get to their classes and that they're carrying heavy backpacks with them as they try to get to their classes. Renee Brown in concern for a granddaughter who's in kindergarten, unable to get to school due to her mom having cerebral palsy. And also Michelle Brown, who in regards to that same issue. So those are the comments that we received on our public comment form. For those who would like to give public comment in that way, you are able to do so until about 3 o'clock before our meetings take place on the day of. And now we will have our in-person public comment. And so we'd like to welcome those who are here to give in-person public comment. You will have, and JC, make sure you set our timer for us. So you will have 3 minutes to address the board. It's important to understand that when we receive public comment, because it's not specifically on our agenda, we can't address those public comments. And so sometimes it might seem like an awkward interaction as we just sit here, but it's important to understand that because it's not on our agenda, that by law we are not able to address those things in our meeting tonight. So we'd like to invite up. We have Renee Brown here. We'd like to invite her up to our podium. Do you want to do that? Okay, sorry, I saw the little and I couldn't figure out which one. So we will have Michelle Brown who will come up to give us our public comment to start.
Yeah, let's see this. There we go. Okay, so when children lack transportation to school, I feel like the right to a free public education is in jeopardy. And I cannot walk or drive my kindergartner to school because of my permanent disability. And Rio Rancho Public Schools transportation could not help me because of their policies for children that live within walking distance of schools. So for children like mine that are young and dependent on their families to get them to school, but families, when they lack resources to get them there, what can be done. So I provided a note from my doctor with my disability and why we needed door-to-door pickup. And it was initially accepted, but because my daughter was not the one with the disability, it then was rejected. As a compromise, transportation told me that I could take my child to the nearest bus stop. But that too was rejected in a day because we were told we lived too close to the school, within walking distance, so she couldn't go to the regular bus stop. So I had outside family members, like my mother-in-law here, scrambling to try to get her back and forth to school, and they were in jeopardy of losing their job. So I reached out to the public education department in Santa Fe for help, and we had many conversations about transportation to try to find a solution. And then, like I said, by that time school was started, and eventually Dr. Cleveland did give permission to move the bus stop in front of our house for my daughter to ride the bus, which I was very grateful for. So thank you for that. And so there's a policy for children with disabilities. It's called a 504 form for children, which helps them qualify for services like transportation and other services. But there isn't a specific policy to help families or parents with disabilities get their children to school. So in the beginning, I was told that an exception for transportation could not be made for my family because they would have to make that exception for everyone and that the funding just isn't there. But I felt like my child was being left behind, and I was not asking for an exception. I was just asking for equal opportunity to get my child to school. And much like a child with a disability should not be discriminated against, a child without a disability whose family members or parents have a disability should not be discriminated against either, especially if their child's education could be threatened. So a policy needs to be put into place to help families like mine get the resources they need to transport children to school. I know that funding will be necessary to put such policies into practice, which is why I'm here getting the discussion started today so that Rio Rancho Public Schools can not just ignite student potential, but can keep the flame fueled with resources extended to families like mine.
Thank you. Thank you. And your time is up. And we also, now Renee, right? You also are signed up. Would you like to give your public comment?
She actually said it all, but you know, we went back and forth between Santa Fe and here in the school and Santa Fe again, and you know, in the school and back to here, and it did result well for us. But if we could do something to get this is not Rio Rancho, no fault, you know. The school system just needs more money for funding for transportation. And so if we can help in any way, you know, and use my granddaughter as a fine example of her not being able to get to school because her mom has a disability, I mean, then we would be doing that as well. But it is about funding from the state. It's not just targeted to Rio Rancho Public Schools. Nobody did anything wrong. There's just no funding for the transportation. We need more buses. We need, you know, things in place because I'm sure that my granddaughter and my daughter-in-law are not the only ones that are having this problem, you know. So it took us 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. 2 weeks, you know, 2 weeks I was out of work, you know, trying to get this all resolved. But in the end, thank you very much, you know, for that. It's really well appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you. And for all of our public, we appreciate when our public comes in and talks about things. And so please feel free, if you would like to sign up for public comment in the future, you can come in. You just need to sign up before the board meeting starts is the important thing. If you come in after, you won't be able to give public comment. So please come before our meetings. But thank you so much for coming in tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, moving into our next portion is our commendations for the evening. And so we'd like Todd Resch to come on up. We'll start with our bowling student recognition. And Todd Resch is our Executive Director of Athletics.
Well, good evening, Board President Galbraith, Superintendent Cleveland, members of the board. I have the distinct pleasure tonight to recognize 4 exemplary student athletes that represent themselves, their school, their families, and their community in such a great way. What we're going to start with is a group of 3 bowlers. The Rio Rancho Public Schools Athletic Department would like to recognize the following students who participated in the United States Bowling Congress's National Bowling Tournament Junior Gold Championship. It took place in July from the 14th to the 22nd in Indianapolis, Indiana. And those students, when called, if you wouldn't mind just coming on up, we'd all appreciate it so we can recognize you. From Rio Rancho High School, Ms. Kylie Belknap. Also from Rio Rancho High School, Ms. Mia Medina. And from Visu Cleveland High School, Shane Muller. So these 3 students joined other students over the summer and played in a huge national tournament that apparently the facility had 72 lanes, bowling lanes. So quite a massive facility, and they just did a fantastic job. Would you like to say anything?
Sure.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for being here and for us. Junior Gold was a really good experience. I'm gonna be honest, it was hard because the oil patterns are different. There's long, short, medium. They didn't tell us any of the patterns, so we were just using our arsenal, one of our bowling balls, just throwing it down the lane, trying to figure it out. Thankfully, they gave us about 40 minutes of practice for one day. I bowled at 3 bowling centers for my group, U15. There were different divisions like 1, 2, 3, 4 through all the numbers. All the odds went to 3 bowling alleys, and all the even numbers went to 2 other bowling alleys. So it was a lot of kids. I bowled against like 1,300 kids, and I placed probably halfway. I was pretty impressed with myself, I'm gonna be honest, because it was my first big tournament out of state. I've never been out of state for a tournament, so it was a really good experience. My first time at practice, the lanes were all sticky, so the bowling shoes I have, I can change the padding, and I actually fell my first throw, so that was kind of embarrassing, but I learned to not do that again. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I learned a lot. I talked to some of there was a professional there. I talked with him for a few hours, just learning about bowling, because I'm not new, but he definitely taught me a whole bunch of things. I learned. I bought some bowling balls over there. Right now, I'm having an amazing time at bowling. I just bowled the New Mexico Open. I was the youngest in New Mexico history to ever bowl in that tournament. So that was a really good experience. I love bowling. I want to be honest. I love bowling. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Shane. And board members, the students have desired a picture to be taken with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. We'll come down. How about or do you guys want to just come up here? What's the best?
Why don't they stand there and we'll just stand here, huh?
I'm so short, but
Did you ladies want?
Good job. Thank you, ladies. Okay, next up, board members, we have the Rio Rancho Athletic Department would like to recognize Rio Rancho High School's Peyton Black. Peyton recently won the Nota Begay Regional Golf Tournament and will be going to the National Championship in November. The final round of that tournament will be televised on the Golf Channel in December. Peyton is currently a junior who earned all district and all state honors last year in golf. Peyton, come on up.
I'd just like to thank the board for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I'm super blessed, and it means a lot to me. Thank you, guys.
Okay, one more picture, please.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So again, Board President Galbraith, Superintendent Cleveland, members of the board, we are here to have a conversation and to show you a video about the NMAA's unsportsmanlike conduct bylaw that was passed over the summer. I want to share with you that bylaw 7.7.4 was passed over the summer, which addresses egregious, unsportsmanlike behavior by players, coaches, and fans. And before you watch this video, it's about 8 minutes long. It's an explanation of the rule by NMAA Executive Director Sally Marquez. I want you to know that last school year, there were 315 player or coach ejections in New Mexico. So the problem is getting worse and something needs to be done. So here you have the 2 strikes rule, which is implemented and into place right now.
I think we can all agree that behavior by fans has gotten out of hand. During the offseason, the New Mexico Activities Association updated the sportsmanship bylaws to include specific penalties for egregious acts of unsportsmanlike conduct. The updated bylaw now specifies the possibility of suspension of a team or fan from athletic activities for unsportsmanlike conduct. The bylaw reads, anytime an egregious act of unsportsmanlike conduct by a team participant, including a coach, occurs 2 or more times during the same season at the same school in the same activity, the team will be suspended from participation in that activity for the remainder of the season. Also, anytime an egregious act of unsportsmanlike conduct by a non-team participant, for example, a parent or fan, occurs 2 or more times during the same season at the same school in the same activity, the non-team member, along with all school spectators, will be suspended from attendance in that activity for the remainder of the season. Examples of egregious unsportsmanlike conduct by participants, coaches, or spectators include, but are not limited to, fans entering the playing surface to engage in acts of violence or abuse, constant verbal attacks on officials, attacking other fans, coaches physically or verbally attacking officials, players fighting other players during post-game handshakes, or student sections verbally chanting inappropriate or demeaning comments towards individuals, teams, or officials. In the event the second act of misconduct occurs when there are no contests left in the current season, the penalty may be applied to the next season in the same activity. The NMAA will notify the school that the team and/or individual or spectator has been placed on warning after the first offense. I'm sure there are a lot of questions with this 2 strikes and you're out policy. We hope this video will answer those questions.
Could you share with us what you do professionally?
For the past 28 years of my life, I've been in the classroom.
You're a teacher. Do you still teach?
Yes, I do. 6th grade.
That's amazing.
Sally, how big of a problem has fan behavior become at sporting events, and why is there a need for this updated bylaw?
Well, it's become a problem not only in New Mexico, but nationwide. And we've had bad behavior, and we see it on TV. We see it at sporting events. We see it all over now. And so it is becoming a problem. And there has been uptick in bad behavior in New Mexico. We have seen officials just threatened We have seen them being followed out to cars. We've seen, cussing and screaming and we have to go back and think, JP, that this is an extension of the classroom. We are education-based athletics. And although we have to think about it as the football field, the basketball court, that is our classroom. Those are our kids that we need to teach lifelong skills for. So whether maybe in your community you don't see it and you're wondering, why are we doing this? It is happening statewide, and we need to curb this bad behavior.
What is the difference between egregious behavior and fans just booing from the stands? Can you give us an example of what might constitute a first strike or even a second violation?
I can give you some examples. We have our Compete with Class initiative, and we have had that for the past 10 years. And if a fan individually is acting out, they are removed from the event, and they could be banned up to 365 calendar days from NMA events. We will still continue to have that Compete with Class initiative. This is on top of it for egregious behavior. So we are not talking about one fan screaming and yelling and they have to remove them from the event. We're talking about continuous bad behavior that we call egregious, which is over that line. And some examples of that is we've had some brawls in the stands. We've had parents come out on the floor and they're fighting and arguing. We've had student bodies in a hole in unison say F, 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 U, F, U all the way through the game, and nothing has been done about it. We've had officials that have come out of the game and they have spit all over their cars, or they are threatened, followed to the locker room. Those types of things are egregious behaviors. It is not the one fan that boos, or if a crowd boos, but when you cross the line and take it personal, that's egregious. When you are calling out officials' families or you're calling out names, those are egregious behavior that we just are not going to tolerate anymore. And so, yes, once again, egregious versus one individual fan, we need to get that misconception that one individual fan may affect everybody. But yes, if it's egregious behavior, then it will affect the whole entire fan base.
Have you seen this type of bylaw work in other states, and will this help bench that bad behavior?
This bylaw has really started in Oklahoma, and then Louisiana adopted it. And a lot of states are looking at this bylaw. It's called this 2 strikes bylaw. The reason is every state association has seen an uptick in bad behavior, and it needs to be curbed. Now, the difference is in Oklahoma, 2 strikes, whether it's the fan base or not, really had the kids. They were no longer going to be able to compete if the fans were affecting the kids. In New Mexico, we started talking about this in the fall of 2022, and our commission and our board of directors or athletic directors asked to separate the fans versus the kids or the coaches. And so we have separated that, so that's a little bit different than Oklahoma. But yes, many state associations are going to this. The National Federation has a bench bad behavior campaign, because we have seen an uptick nationwide. And New Mexico, we have to do better. We need to lead by example with good sportsmanship.
What is the message you want people to take away from the updated sportsmanship bylaw?
I think the message that I would like for everybody to understand is your fellow community members, your fellow parents, they can affect you in the fan base as far as whether you're going to be able to watch your kids or not. And so we need to get back to where we see bad behavior, we need to address the bad behavior. A lot of times we're in the stands or we're on the court and we're waiting for somebody else to address it. We're waiting for the athletic director, the administrator to address it. And so basically what this has done in Oklahoma and Louisiana, the parents are policing each other. In other words, if there's one strike against a team or a fan base, then the parents are saying, come on, let's not have bad behavior because we want to continue to watch our kids the rest of the year. And so I think that's the message, is where we have to go back, where we step up and we are examples and we are role models. And when somebody is not acting appropriately, we need to say something to that person, and we need to model good behavior throughout the community. And also, too, we need to remember this is an extension of the classroom. Again, I said that before, but we are teaching kids lifelong skills. What do you want your son or daughter to come out of athletics, and how do you want them to act, and how do you want your grandchildren to act? And that's what we have to remember, because this high school athletics, and for the majority of our students, this is their end of their athletic career, and how they experience what they experience in this endeavor, in this athletic realm, is how they're going to act when they graduate. And this is a time right now that we need to change society. We need to change New Mexico, and we need to go back and do what's right. And that is to act appropriately in these sporting events. Cheer on your daughter, cheer on your son, cheer on community members, stay positive, and we can all have a good experience.
My life is essentially being on tour. How do I have tools that can leverage myself, where there can be more of me getting stuff cleared in the queue as quickly as possible?
So this. Okay, so this video was sent to the 4 athletic coordinators at the middle schools and the 2 high school athletic directors, along with every coach at the high school level. And it was requested that this video be shown at every parent meeting, beginning of the year parent meeting, so everyone is aware of this expectation. Friday night was an opportunity in a heated number 1 versus number 2 football game, very well attended, with a lightning delay, which meant everyone had to leave the stadium, come back. I mean, it just set the tone for unsportsmanlike behavior. And I will tell you, I would have brought my wife and my daughter to that game because I wanted them to experience what I saw. And what I saw was a great high school football atmosphere. So I stand for questions.
First, I just want to say thank you for showing this tonight. It's really important. I did have an opportunity to go to the Rancho High School meeting, and I thought they did a really good job as they covered all of these things. I was also at that game on Friday night. I was super sad to not be able to be in there, but everyone moved in and out of that stadium really well. I didn't see any complaints from my angle, and so everyone did do a really, really great job. We have a great district. So questions, Gary Tripp, or comments?
A couple of comments. One thing that happened in the past when the NMA used to send out reports when there was an eviction of a player or a coach, and it went to the superintendent or the school board, and it was from middle school all the way up to high school. And what happened is that report got its way to the desk of the superintendent and the school board. So a bad behavior by a player's name went, and it was a lot of work from the NMA, but a soccer kid got 2 red cards and got kicked out, and that report didn't just go to the athletic director, it went to the superintendent and the school board. And I think it did a couple of things. And I think what it did is it kind of helped the athletic director be on notice with his coaches and his parents on a daily basis, to kind of be proactive about behavior on a daily basis. And that, I guess that's where I just leave the comment. It's a lot of work, I know, over there, but I think what it does at the end of the school year, they used to send out reports of no violations. And I know school boards all around the state were having celebration nights at the end of the year, congratulating and actually promoting athletics and activities even more so, because they were talking about how quality of a community they had and they were proud of. So just some things that can come from that. So just maybe another avenue to help, even though I know it's a lot of work.
Sir, and I also know that any player or coach ejection will impede the progress towards the Director's Cup for NMAA high schools.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Jeff Morgan, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Yeah. Noreen Scott, any questions, comments? Jessica Tyler, any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
And Dr. Cleveland, do you want to have any
We're
final
just
comments?
asking everybody's help and cooperation so that how very tragic it would be if our players lost the ability to compete particularly because of the adult fans or one or two players who didn't follow the rules. And I'll just share one quick thing. It was several years ago, and I was at an event, and it was one of our players, but it was just awful. It was a young kid. He's out there playing, and the whole crowd on the other side were harassing him in a terrible way. You think about a high school student having to carry that kind of a load with an harassing, abusive crowd every time you came up to bat. And so we really do need to get back to what athletics is all about and why we do it. It's to build. Certainly, we love the competition of the game, but it's to build character. It's to build commitment. It's all of those other things, those life skills, as mentioned earlier. And we're not teaching our kids the right things when we do that. We behave that way. So it's the word that they use when they talk to superintendents is, we're going to enforce this ferociously. And I think we were already seeing some signs that that's going to be the case. So we really employ everyone to help make it a good situation for all of our kids. This is not just athletics either. And that's another thing. It's the largest number of students under the NMAA umbrella are athletes, student athletes, but not all. And this also applies to the other areas as well. So we've got a great community. We hope you'll step up and make it a great year for our players and for our students.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being with us tonight. Okay, our next report will be on our Hall of Honor nomination process. We have Ron Epps, who's our committee chair of the Hall of Honor. I also know, I think we have a few other committee members who are here with us tonight. So welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, the rest of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. Thank you for having me here today. And we are ready to do another round with the Hall of Honor Committee. If you haven't taken a look, I know you guys get to walk down that hallway every once in a while, but every once in a while, stop and take a look at those plaques. And you can see some of the people that have really meant a lot to this district, and that's really what we're trying to do, is honor those people. JC, go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So our committee this year is, as Dr. Cleveland said earlier, is made up of both community members like myself, but also we do have some staff members, and so you'll see that, and we've got 2 or 3 other people here in the room that are on the committee. We've already met and started our process, and part of that process is actually tonight, and getting your permission to go ahead and open up for nominations. And what we would like to do is have the nominations take place until the end of September. So September 30th is when they would be due. And at that point, then the committee will take a look at all of those. We spend a lot of time reading through each one of those, both on an individual basis, but also as a committee. And then we go through those and determine whether or not we feel those people should be honored, and whether they have a really good case. And we can choose 0 if no one really, I guess, fits our criteria that year. If everyone nominates Gary Tripp, you just know it's going to be 0, Gary. Sorry. He's not eligible. He's on the board. So, but you just don't know. But we can also do up to 4 people in any one year. So it's anywhere from 0 to 4. We're looking for people that have been staff members. And so that can be anyone from great teachers, because we know there have been great teachers. I'm very fortunate. 3 of my kids graduated from Rancho High School. They had some great teachers, and so it's really great. It can be administrators. It can be anyone that was a staff member. Could be a janitor that has done a great job. There's no rule as far as that staff member. Can be board members. And if you walk by there, on the wall, you'll see some board members. Can be community members, and community members also could be businesses. And so you'll notice one of them up there is Intel, which is who I used to work for. And you'll see that that's a community member because they've made a big difference in there. And then also we're looking for volunteers. And so people that have come and volunteered in the school district. JC, go ahead and go to the next slide. I keep forgetting I have slides. So again, the nominations are open through September 30th. Distinguished by their extraordinary service, please nominate people. We really look for that, and I just think through, and I have failed to nominate this one teacher that I knew. Dr. Cleveland, I talked to you probably about this one teacher 4 years ago. I'm going to nominate that teacher this year. So you'll look for that, because if nothing else, they know that someone knows that they made a difference in some kids' lives. I don't know if I have another slide. Yes. Okay. So the applications are currently available out on the website. And so there's just a form that you fill out on that. Link's going to be shared with staff. It's going to be shared community newsletters, social media, and a press release, hopefully with the Rio Rancho Observer. And please, when you see that social media post, share it. The more people that know about this and nominate, the better. Any questions that I might be able to fail to answer?
Any questions from the board? We have a comment.
Just a comment. Thank you and all the committee members for the great job. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me pick on you, Gary.
Go ahead, Marie.
Ron, thank you very much for the energy and effort you're putting into this. I think it's a wonderful way to thank the people who've made a difference in this district. So thank you.
I can tell you stories, so I'm not going to take up your time, but yeah, this district is great.
Dr.
So
Lou, do
thank
you
you.
want to add anything?
No, it's just such a wonderful honor, and we've got some great people out there. So really think hard who would be deserving of that, and send in the nominations. But Ron, thank you for your effort on behalf of the Hall of Honor.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's actually one of my favorite evenings is when we get to come together and to honor these individuals who have helped our community so much. And so thank you for putting this together for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just want to be sure we emphasize it's open for staff, but open for community members. It's anyone. It's anyone who's made a major contribution.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. And we'll go to our next item, which is to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay. We have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. As we move to our business portion, I have a report. The Rio Rancho Public School Board of Education met in closed executive session on Monday, August 28th, 2023, for the purpose of discussing the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water's rights by the public body as permitted under Section 10-15-1H8 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. The matters discussed were limited to those specified in the notice of the separate closed meeting. Our next item, item A, is to consider the approval of the land exchange agreement between Rio Rancho Public Schools and the city of Rio Rancho. I know there's, yes, please.
I make a motion that we table the land exchange agreement between Rio Rancho Public Schools and the city of Rio Rancho.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would like to please recuse myself from voting on this item due to potential conflict as my husband's a city councilor with the city of Rio Rancho.
Okay, thank you. So we will go to a roll call vote, knowing that we'll recuse Jessica Tyler from that.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler is recused, and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Okay. And on this one, there's just more questions that the board needed to ask. And so we're going to take some more time to ask those questions. All right. Our next item is going to be to consider the approval of the 23-24 preventative maintenance plan. Patrick Martinez, our Executive Director of Facilities, is here to present.
Thank you. Good evening, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. I present to you the 2023-24 preventative maintenance plan. And what I'd like to do is really just start by looking at the breakdown, the table of contents, because really that's kind of what I'll use to go through this maintenance plan. A lot of it is something that you've seen previous years. And so I'll go through that. And as part of it, we have an introduction that goes over, as you know, the district is responsible for maintaining clean, safe, and attractive school facilities and grounds. And this also coincides with the safety and wellness section of our strategic plan. And with that, a preventative maintenance plan is a tool to assure that the district's assets encourage, promote, maximize safe, functional, and durable learning environments. And so what our maintenance plan strives to do is to shift from a reactive standpoint to a proactive. So really looking at forward-thinking maintenance, preventative maintenance measures. As we move through, you'll see that it's broken out into a purpose, which really is where I want to focus this presentation on. And that goes over our objectives, some maintenance goals, previous goals, and then moves into organization of our maintenance department, facilities department, and then going into some of our maintenance procedures, which are pretty standard, but it's how you've seen them before, and it's what how we do most of our maintenance and kind of the way we handle work orders and maintenance issues that come up. So what I'd like to do is really focus on the purpose. So our objectives with this plan, if you go to the next page, sorry, the next one is, yes, sorry. So the objectives really are to extend the life of our systems and effective use of our available manpower and resources, which is really important because, finding filling positions, vacant positions, specifically in our maintenance department has been difficult. And so making sure that we're effectively using the resources we do have to maintain our facilities. And then a reduction of maintenance and replacement costs through effective preventative maintenance. And really what that means is just looking at ways that we can be forward thinking with our systems and try to put in periodic maintenance schedules that look at these systems ahead of time so that we're not just being reactive. And then again, a proactive in assessing building needs for future funding requests. And so what I'd like to do next is just look at some of the goals that we've accomplished over the last year. I'm going to kind of jump around, but I think it's important to look at what we accomplished this previous year based on our maintenance plan. And one of the big ones is we worked in conjunction with our IT department district-wide to kind of an evaluation of our IDF rooms. As you know, that technology is of great importance in our education, and so making sure that our IT rooms are functioning at maximum capacity. And so in doing that, we've added HVAC units to all of them to make sure that we're not overheating and that those rooms are maintaining temp. Another a big project that was worked on was we replaced 3 elevators that were deemed obsolete at our Rancho High School, which is, as you know, has been an issue over the years with them going down and not functional. And with regard to students with disabilities getting to their class, that's a big issue. So we were able to replace 3 of those at the high school. We also did a project at Desert Pathways where we were able to replace all of their evaporative coolers with refrigerated air. As you know, Desert Pathways is primarily in portables, and it's important that they are in safe and comfortable environments for learning, as we know that some of those students are at risk. And then lastly, we have worked on some LED projects specifically at some of our elementary schools in the restrooms, Sandia Vista, Cielo Azul, in Ernie Stapleton Elementary. And then I'd like to jump back to our goals for the upcoming year. And one of our big goals is really to evaluate our Brightly system, which is a leg of our school dude system, which is our work order system. And what we'd like to do is really start working on maximizing efficiency from our utility data and having real-time current data that we can pull at any time and look at and analyze is extremely important. So we've really been working on getting training on how to use that system. And be able to, like I said, pull real-time data at any given time to look at where we stand at a specific school or district-wide with regards to water, gas, electric, and even solar. And so that's something that we're really trying to build up. That way, we can plan for future. As you know, this last year we had huge hikes in our gas prices, and being able to be ready for things like that is going to really be helpful. Another a big part of related to energy as well is we're going to be conducting a lighting audit of our district and really looking at what schools still need upgrades to our lighting systems, and really be able to prioritize those based on that audit, so that as funding becomes available, we can really hit some of those schools to really bring down that energy uses. And lastly, again, a lot of this you'll notice has to do with energy consumption. And so it's really evaluating our building automation systems. And a lot of that has to do with our HVAC and understanding exactly how efficient our systems are running, being able to catch things sooner by looking at some of those. And so right now what we're doing is we're upgrading our current system to the latest version. But in doing that, we're also trying to look for any ways that we can make sure that we're efficient on looking at some of these data. And so one big change to our maintenance plan, and as you know, is we will be adding an energy manager to our team. And a big part of that ask of the energy manager is to start to look at these things and understand how our systems are working, so that we're not, again, being reactive when something goes down, but we're able to run trends with some of these and look at, how are specific schools functioning? How are they, are there certain times of the year that they're not functioning at their maximum capacity? And that, again, will help us determine, as funding becomes available, where our dollars need to be spent and really prioritize that. As you move through the rest of it, we really get into kind of the detailed organizational charts of our department, our work order system, which really is key to how we function. We make sure that all of our maintenance and requests are through our work order system. That way we can document. And what that does is it ties directly to our supply and material acquisitions, that we can tie material acquisitions to work orders. That way we're being fiscally responsible with how we order. And if it turns out we need a bulk amount of items, then we're able to do that, at a better cost, because we understand kind of what's coming in. We also do preventative maintenance work orders, which are created to really look at certain things that, like filters, for instance, understanding how often we have to replace filters, and those types of things that really help us to be proactive and making sure that we're constantly evaluating our systems and looking at them. And then that also goes into our inspection and maintenance schedules. And lastly, our appendices, which really kind of go into some of those processes, like what a maintenance schedule looks like, responsibilities for our staff members, custodial, grounds, building maintenance, and then kind of what those workflows look like. So I know I went through that pretty quick, kind of jumped around, but I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure I hit really on our goals and objectives for the year, because I think it's important, given, cost of utilities, that we really focus on how we are going to manage and really think about our energy consumption through looking at most of our systems and how we can make them more efficient. And with that, I stand for question.
Thank you so much. Jessica, do you have any questions for Patrick? Comments?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Gary Tripp.
I have, and I don't know if it's a suggestion or not a suggestion, but what I have seen a little bit in the past with the preventive plans is within the objectives, maybe adding the possibility of adding something to like access when extreme natural conditions occur. And a couple of examples is hail. When we get the huge hail, that we better access right away before we cause more damage to any maybe water leaks or anything that's going to cause major problems. And the other thing, and it is a natural disaster, but I hear Vista Grande has a huge pigeon problem, and I don't know if that constitutes a natural crisis, but I do know that it's a health risk and a risk for kids and for staff that have to live through that every day. So that would just be my suggestion. I thank you for this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Jeff Morgan, any questions? Comments? Also, just because you brought that up, I'm going to bring, at Rio Rancho, we also are having a wasp problem. There's some wasp nests, and my daughter actually was running her time trial and was stung by a wasp, and she killed it. But she came in and she's like, I got stung by a wasp on my way in. And so those are, we just need to watch. And I think it was because we actually were trying to clean up those things that happened. But we definitely need to take a look at those things. I have a question as far as our gyms go. Are we running on like the swamp coolers or evaporative coolers in our gyms across the district?
All of our systems through our building automation systems they're run on schedules, and a lot of those schedules also link to our facility use. So when we know that there's going to be events, as a part of the criteria to have a facility use is a schedule, which then our maintenance can go in and update those schedules so they are running during those times. We have had some issues at some of the high schools, but that's the general process really, is to make sure that if they're not being used, they're in kind of an unoccupied mode, running at their bare minimum, unless there's a specific event or facility use that's put in for that.
So my concern is I was talking to, and this isn't in our district, so some students from APS, and their gym floor, because they're running the swamp coolers, just recently completely buckled up.
Oh.
And so I just thought, and I love that we're talking about this and, that those preventative things, and because that's just something we don't want to have happen. That just makes a whole nother mess, that we would have
and
to deal
thankfully, with. Through our HVAC upgrades that we've done, we've pretty much gotten rid of all the swamp coolers except for portables.
That's great.
All swamp coolers have been done, and both of our high schools are on a different system, but again, nothing that really creates that condensation and the humidity that a swamp cooler will. So
that's good. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff Morgan.
Patch, one quick question. Some of the things that Gary just mentioned and Amanda about, I don't know, do we consider those natural disasters, or how would you consider some of those, and how would they be categorized? You've got an emergency, urgent, and routine. How would those be categorized?
Well, a lot of those, anything natural disaster, it depends on what the issue is, but they could be considered emergency. We like to keep emergencies for something that really the students can't learn right now. They have to be kicked out of the classroom, or they have to be, misplaced. That's really what we like to do as an emergency. But with that can also, heavy downpour. We get those really big heavy downpours. And so a big part of, what we do is we look at our systems, and a big system that we have are our roofs. And so trying to maintain our roofs and really, looking them, cleaning them, making sure we don't have sitting water. That's a big part of our routine maintenance. Our roofers are on the roofs, really spraying down and making sure that there's not areas where there's sitting water, because that in itself could cause an issue, like in an emergency. If you have a leak in a classroom, that classroom then has to be shut down. And so same with HVAC and anything that's really going to affect students is what we deem an emergency. Or pest control. That is another one that we look at pretty heavily, and it is a problem. It's a problem in a lot of areas, but I would say that if it affects students, that's what we deem an emergency.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Dr. Cleveland, did you have?
Just thank you for this plan. It's very comprehensive, and about the old thing of plan to be prepared or prepared to fail. And so having a really good organizational approach toward preventative maintenance is just a really smart thing to do. We appreciate the plan and your leadership in pulling this all together. I want to really stress, and perhaps this will come up as school board, and I hope you'll be supporting of it. And I kind of regretted later that we didn't propose that as one of the resolutions, but all across the state right now, we're hearing from other districts as well that we just simply lack the funding for good preventative maintenance. And so we're seeing a lot of problems that could easily be repaired early that just are growing into extremely expensive projects later on. And so there is going to be a push to improve the commitment for preventative maintenance dollars. This is a time in our state. We have the money. We have significant money to be able to do some things. And going in and repairing and fixing up our schools is a really smart use of that money, because long-term, those buildings will last longer and they'll be more effective and efficient. So I hope as you meet with your School Boards Association colleagues, really push for that. I anticipate it's going to be in the New Mexico School Superintendent's platform this year. And we are most successful when we work closely with the school boards and trying to get that done. But there is sufficient funding up there this year to take on some of these things. So we have not really had a really strong advocate for preventative dollars since Speaker Ben Lujan many years ago, who was a real advocate for taking care of what we have. And there's just been nobody to carry that torch after he was no longer the speaker. So hopefully we can get that conversation going again, because we certainly find that we lack the dollars that we need to be able to maintain all of our buildings at the level we would like to maintain them. And it certainly sends a powerful message to staff and to students how much we value them or don't in terms of that upkeep. And then my last comment is certainly all the work that's been done on HVAC in your department and under Mike's leadership, and so really paid off for us this year. And having, heard from across the river from some folks in other districts, those that had swamp coolers, it was absolutely awful for their summer schools and their summer programs. And so that was something that was needed, and it's paid off. And the other issue, of course, in big buildings, you think about how much water has to go through these huge swamp coolers, and water, of course, is at a premium. So anyway, thank you so much for a really good report, and we will be asking the board to approve the maintenance plan.
Madam President, this is Board Member Tyler. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 23-24 preventative maintenance plan.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. And JC will take a roll call vote for us.
Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Tripp?
Yes.
Board Member Tyler?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We appreciate it. For our next items, I'm going to go ahead and just read all of these out. We'll welcome David Vigil up as we go through these. So items C through F will be our first readings of policies. So our policies will be policy 606, our district credit card usage, policy 607, the fiscal accounting and reporting, policy 608, financial system and expenditure reports, and policy 609, budget transfers. And so all of these will be presented tonight by David Vigil, our Executive Director of Finance.
Thank you, President Galbraith, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. Yes, we bring in front of you 4 policies for first reading today. The first one is the district credit card usage, policy 606. Just to briefly point you to paragraph 4, language is added to reflect our upgraded capacity in our district procurement practices. We have now the sophistication to do our own procurements and determine on our own the best value for the district. So that's why that language is added there. The next paragraph, in paragraph 5, the language is added to provide flexibility to impose limits based on the need of each user and the department. The vast majority of these cards have a $5,000 limit, which is plenty of purchasing power for each or most card holders. There are only a handful of users that need more than 5K, but it does provide that added flexibility in the event of an emergency, as we actually just heard from Patrick earlier. And then the next paragraph, in paragraph 6, it just condenses the language and relegates the process of each of these details to our district administrative procedures instead of defining those in the policy themselves. I'll just go through all of these, and if you have questions. Moving on to policy 607. What we've done here is we are proposing to repeal policy 608 and take all of that language and embed that, merge it with policy 607. So it just adds language to almost verbatim of policy 608 to merge those. And then 608, we're recommending repeal and merging. And then policy 609, just briefly, it adds definitions for budget transfers here at the district, and then a definition for budget adjustment requests, which require PED approval. And with that, I stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions, Noreen, Scott? Any questions? Any questions? Go ahead, Gary Tripp.
So David, on the first one, I was reading, P cards are issued to designated employees. So we determine that each year, or the superintendent determines that each year, how many P cards go out, or?
Well, yes, all district employees that have to conduct business for the district
Oh, okay.
have the availability to go through our P card training program and then have a card issued to them specifically, individually.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Jeff Morgan? Any questions, comments?
Is there a certain level for these individuals who have these cards?
As I said before, Vice President Morgan, all the cards are, all of the cards are set at a $5,000 limit right now.
No. I mean individuals like vice presidents, presidents, or there's certain levels, grade levels, individuals that use these cards. Because can anybody have access to the cards? That's kind of what I'm asking. Or is it just certain individuals? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Like teachers or principals?
Yeah, please.
So most of the time it's department heads and administrative assistants who do a lot of the ordering. And in some cases, our club sponsors and coaches, they can also have those P cards as well.
So do we know how many P cards are out there?
We do. We actually have a detailed listing of everybody who has issued a P card.
Okay. Do you know that number? How many that is?
I don't know that number offhand, but I do.
That sounds like a lot. That's why I'm asking. That's a lot to be having that amount on those cards. That's all I'm asking.
It is, and the idea behind it, Vice President Morgan, is to make sure that card is issued to an individual person, which makes them responsible for the charges on that card, so that if anything does happen, we know exactly who those charges are attributed to, so we can take action.
All right. Okay.
So.
Okay.
Just, you good? You good?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
But it's always to an individual, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
It's always to an individual. It's not to a department or to a school without a name attached to it.
Right, because you said booster clubs, but it wouldn't be issued to the booster club. It'd be introduced to a designated employee.
It's only
within
employees.
one. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, board member Tripp. It's only issued to employees of the district.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica Tyler, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to give any comments?
Just a point about the P cards, and that is one of the concerns sometimes that we get, as we ask people to be sure and follow the rules and regulations and procedures, what they want is the ability to get something that they need in a timely manner. And so P cards allow you to do that. There are some risks with P cards, and so obviously having them out, and that's why they're not, as Mr. Vihil's saying, they're not to be passed around. They go to an individual, and those are pretty carefully monitored. And anything, of course, you use it for, you have to submit receipts and all of the things that would show that you used it for an appropriate purpose. But the why of it is sometimes we have people say, I've got to have something very quickly, and going through the older process sometimes took a while. That being said, even the traditional process now is much faster than it used to be. They really turned things around in our finance office in a timely manner. And that's really appreciated. Really good work in that area. But it's the timeliness. So you're out somewhere and you need to be able to get something, you can get it right away. As long as it follows all the rules and regulations of what you can buy, something, the type of things you can use it for.
Thank you.
And
Trips to Bermuda don't count. Okay. Or, it's pretty tight on what you can use the P cards for.
And Vice President Morgan, I would just add that each card holder has to go through our training program and has specific rules that they have to follow, and we provide training on that as well.
Do they sign after the training? Are they endorsing that, yes, I have went through this process and I understand? Okay,
Yes,
good enough.
that's exactly what they do.
Thank you.
They sign for the card and the responsibility for the use of that card.
All right, good enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have any further questions or comments on it. So thank you so much. So
Thank you.
we'll be voting on those in our next meeting. So thank you so much. Okay, we'll go into our advanced planning. September 4th will be our Labor Day holiday. On the 11th, we'll have a special work session at 3:30. Here, we'll meet here in the training center. Also on the 11th will be a regular board meeting at 5:30. September 25th will be an audit committee meeting at 4. Also on the 25th will be a regular board meeting. And then we move into October. And so please refer to your agenda for any other dates. Are there any other calendar items or anything that we need to be aware of or any questions on the calendar items? I think we're good. We will have coming up, we have, some different meetings with New Mexico school boards that will be coming up and such. So yeah, so just keep those in your mind. Okay, so with that, our meeting tonight's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.